Everybody, it's Chris again. I'm back, and guess what? We are going to talk about something I've been wanting to for a while. I had to get my notes together because there's kind of I've had a lot of dreams about this, and I wanted to really talk about some of the dreams God gave me, where He showed me health solutions in dreams, and exactly as the title shows right now. So I've been going through all my notes, my dream journal notes, to find all the stuff God has shown me in dreams about natural health solutions. Natural health solutions, not just health solutions, but natural ones, and actual solutions, um, not treatment, but things that could actually lead to a cure. As you can imagine, this is totally the opposite of what you'll hear in mainstream doctors from your doctor, probably. Um, this is the opposite of what you'll find in all the main propaganda that we get in all of our everyday life with this kind of thing. I should probably give a little history here myself, how I even ended up finding out that there was stuff wrong with what we were consuming. Um, I will say that my initial learning experience was rather slow. I didn't catch on very quickly at all. Um, I started having very severe food allergies, one thing at a time. Now, this isn't actually part of my topic here, but it's good for history because I did one of the first blogs I ever wrote about was how I got healed from food allergies. And off topic, but if you go back to one of my first blogs, I tell you how I went to Joan Hunter. She's a healing minister. I went to one of her things. She had a small little meeting thing in Tennessee, Cleveland, Tennessee. I went to see her, and I went to see Perry Stone back to back, 2 different days. This was back like 10 years ago, and um, I asked one of her daughter, who was on her staff there, in between sessions, and I asked her about food allergies. I said, I'm trying to find a cure for food allergies. I have problems with foods, and causing me severe um, acne breakouts. Like they called it cystic acne, where it was so deep under the skin, it was almost like a rock. You couldn't squeeze anything and get it out. It hurt. Some of it was getting so bad that I was wondering if it was going to leave a permanent scar. It was all over. I was breaking out all over, and it wasn't just one food. It was just the list kept getting not all kinds like milk, big problem. Then it was bell peppers, it was kiwi, it was ginger, it was soybean oil. I mean, the list kept getting longer and longer. I started writing things down. It got so bad that I could tell every time I ate something, a certain kind of food, I could tell when my skin was going to break out the next day. I knew exactly which food it was because I started getting and I got this long list of stuff. I mean, think about it: bell peppers, ginger. How does that make your skin break out really bad? Um, but it did. It was, like I say, it was all over. Um, well, I talked to one of Joan Hunter's daughters on the staff in between sessions in Tennessee about 10 years ago, and she told me that many times food allergies are caused by unforgiveness. And I was like, wow, didn't see that coming. So I already had a couple of Joan Hunter's books, and um, so I went to the section in one of the books, and I read the prayer out loud that she gave for forgiving people. So I went through a whole list of people that I just, as I thought of them, if they had done anything to me that had been against me or said anything or treated me in a bad way, any of them. I came up with like 20 people in like the last 20 people in maybe the last 20 years that I could think of that may have done something to me. And I spoke the prayer out loud and I spoke their name out loud. And I literally did this 20 times, once for each person. I went through this. And I had the feeling I knew that what this lady, Joan Hunter's daughter, said, I knew it was true. When she told me, I knew it was true. I felt like it was true. And so I said, I'm going to test this out. So I did the prayer when I got back after the event the next day, reading the prayer out loud in the book and putting in all the people's names, spoke it out audibly. And I felt like, okay, after that, I said, okay, I'm going to test this. I want to see if it's true. Now, I felt like it was true, but I had to test it. Of course, you got to test it. So I had something that would have caused me a very severe breakout within less than 24 hours. I would have seen it the next day. I ate these little ginger candies made with actual ginger in them. And in the past, that would have caused me a serious problem. My skin would have broke out really bad because of that. Just these tiny little things, ginger candies, little ones. So I ate that, and the next day, no breakout. So I said, aha. So I ate it again. I ate more of it. The day after that, no breakout. Again, day after that, no breakout at all. No, I was cured, healed of food allergies. There's only one thing I still have a problem with now, and it's if I eat something with too much heavy cream, like if it's whipped cream or anything that uses heavy cream, if I eat too much of it, I'll get a very minor breakout. And I mean minor, very minor in comparison. And I've noticed that apple cider vinegar, if I drink, a tiny little bit of apple cider vinegar with a lot of water, like a cold cup full of water, maybe like a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. It has to be the one that says the mother. If it does not have the mother, like that cloudy stuff in there, if it doesn't have that cloudy stuff, it doesn't say the word the mother on the apple cider vinegar, like Bragg's is a top brand. There's other stores that have it. Aldi has it. I've shopped at Wegmans many times, big, huge store in New York. They have it. Any of those brands, but definitely Bragg's is a well-known brand, organic. It says with the mother. If you drink a tablespoon of that in like a normal coffee cup size of water, of course it's very bitter. You can mix honey in there. Mix honey, put pumpkin spice in there, mix it all up. If you drink that, that helps to clear out the lymph system, which is I've determined that's where the problem comes in with all these food allergies breakouts I was having. It's coming from the lymph system. It's clogging up the lymph system and it's coming out through your skin. The lymph system is just underneath the skin, so it comes out through the skin. It took me a long time to figure this all out. By the way, I have no medical training. I have no medical licensing or anything like that. The entire purpose of this video today is not to tell you what to do, it's to tell you what God showed me to do in my dreams at night. And in some places, now this was not in a dream at night, but I just want to tell you my history, how I got started. So this thing with Joan Hunter and the unforgiveness and all that, that was not that did not come in a dream that I remember. I don't remember anything about that. Um, um, so so that's just my history. So again, I'm telling you what God has shown me, revealed to me by different means, and we're getting to the dreams. I have a whole list of them here. We're going to go through. And I'm going to tell you all kinds of stuff God's been showing me. And then we'll follow that up after that. I'm going to tell you what my wife has been getting, where Jesus has showed her very specific things about me that I have to stop eating. And I'll tell you why. We'll get to all that. So anyway, so I'm telling you, I got healed from food allergies, very severe food allergies that kept getting worse and worse and worse. I got to the point I almost couldn't find anything to eat. I remember walking around in a grocery store for 45 minutes trying to find something that didn't have soybean oil or any of these ingredients that I was having a very severe breakout with. It was bad. I mean, it was really, really bad. And so, but it didn't take long after that. Well, it did take a few years, actually. It did take long before God led me down this path to where I started learning about these things now. Okay, so that was my initial starting point where I began to realize that I needed to pay attention to foods and just the very basic introductory level. Okay, now let's fast forward that from around 2015 to 2020. The first dream I had where God started showing me natural solutions to health problems was December 24th, 2020. Now, a lot of these dreams in the beginning, I had no idea what God was talking about. I didn't know what area of life he was talking about. I didn't know if these dreams were literal or some up to maybe a max of 2 months, maybe a little less than 2 months, almost every time before I figured out what was going on. Now I'm a lot more acclimated to this, but still sometimes he'll give me, and it's all symbolic. Not all of them were symbolic though. Most of them were symbolic, and I had to figure out, I had to study, I had to keep asking God, and weeks would go by before he gave me the answer. The first one was literal though. I'm going to tell you right now. the first dream, and it's December 24th, 2020. I'm in some kind of a doctor's office, and this doctor's telling me I need all these shots. And he's kind of like showing me all these things, and I'm like, no, 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 I'm not doing any of that stuff. Then he shows me liquid iodine in a vial, a small vial of liquid iodine. And that one, I decide I should take that. I decided to take that one. In the dream, it didn't say why. No information in the dream was given why. Okay, now we know from all the teaching on Bible-based dream interpreting and prophetic gifts, which this is part of, that God will tell you things in part. We prophesy in part. Dreams are partial. If you want to get the answer, you have to study. You know, and it's Timothy, it says, study to show thyself approved. So you have to study. God expects us to study to find out what he's saying in symbolic dreams. And so it was a few weeks went by, and I just started to follow people that were talking about the reality of what's going on in our world with foods and all kinds of toxic stuff in our environment that I didn't know anything about. And in the process, they started talking about iodine. And they were talking how iodine is used for detox of fluoride. Fluoride is a neurotoxin that specifically goes after your pineal gland. Your pineal gland is what connects you, your whole self, to your spirit, to the spiritual realm, to having spiritual awareness. A false lying agenda about fluoride saying that you got to have it, and they put it in the water. They do everything they possibly can to kill and to calcify your pineal gland so it doesn't function. So therefore, they cut you off from the connection to your spirit and the spirit realm and that kind of thing. Now, I'm talking biblical Christian stuff. I'm not talking New Age wacko stuff. No, I'm talking Christian, biblical, solid, real truth from God. Now, if you listen to Apostle Taylor, David E. Taylor's teaching on protons, you will find that Jesus showed him in a visitation, your pineal gland is exactly what I said. Your pineal gland is okay, when people talk the third eye, where do you think they got this from? Why is it that New Age and all these false religions, why do they know things that Christians don't know? Because we make the very dumb mistake, a very foolish mistake of hearing what they say, oh, that must be witchcraft. We just throw it in the trash. No, there's truth behind a lot of this stuff. There is truth behind a lot of that stuff. Yes, they're using it in the wrong way. Their beliefs are false, yes, but there is truth underneath that. And it's a long topic. You got to read what I've written about Marvel supernatural abilities and that, because I talk about this stuff in there. I'm not trying to get off on that. I'm trying to say that there is a real connection. Jesus came and showed in a dream, and even some of these people, there are some Christians that do understand that the connection between the pineal gland and the spirituality, the whole spiritual realm. There are some, not many, but there are some that actually know this is true. So it's hard to find them, but they do exist. Now, like I say, Apostle Taylor's teaching on protons, you got to go on the JMMI or KOGGC website. Go find the teaching called Protons, the mystery of protons, the ancient mystery of protons. And there is some shocking stuff in there. It's not new to me. I first learned about this 10 years ago. In fact, one of the first teachings I ever got when I went directly myself to a JMMI event in Michigan, I went there, and one of the first teachings I bought was the mystery of protons. I bought that. It jumped right out at me like, I got to have this. I got to hear what he says. That was one of the first teachings I ever got. So this isn't new to me. And you've got to understand the connection between the supernatural and the Marvel realm of the supernatural miracles and the pineal gland. And the connection to receiving visions, you have to understand the connection to the pineal gland. That is called, all these false religion people, they call it the third eye. Well, again, there's truth to that. You have to understand there is truth to that. And that is where you see things in your mind, the spirit of your mind. The Bible talks about the spirit of your mind. Those verses are there for a reason. If your eye be evil, it didn't say your eyes be evil. Jesus said, if your eye be evil. He was talking about the pineal gland. These are mystery level things. If you read the surface level of the Bible, you don't do any digging it. You don't do any studying with the concordance. You don't do any. You don't listen to people that actually know this stuff at the mystery level. Then you're going to miss you're going to miss most of what the Bible actually says. There's a lot of stuff in there. You're going to miss most of it. So anyway, so I began to realize that God was showing me I needed liquid iodine. Now, I don't know if iodine in solid form is equal to the liquid form. All I know is the dream showed me liquid. So I went out and I bought iodine from, I think, Lugol's, the little dropper bottle, Lugol's iodine. I think it was that one. That's what I got. And I've bought that a few times, like maybe 2 or 3 times since then. I haven't had it pop up in a dream ever since the first time. But since then, I became sensitized to the fact that fluoride is a neurotoxin and it directly goes after your pineal gland to kill it, to make it useless. In the big, you got to understand things in the big scheme of things. You have to understand things. This is a big, huge topic. You have to understand this. It's very big, and you have to study to really understand what's going on. And you have to break out of all this mainstream lies that we've been taught and all this crap that is keeping us thinking, just dumbing down so low that we don't even realize all the toxic poison that's out there. A lot of it. There's a ton of crap that we're being killed with, literally. Cancer is not a mystery. The source of it is not a mystery. It's in cosmetics, all parabens, phthalates, and all this stuff. It's in, it's in the foods. Oh, glyphosate. Oh, Trump, President Trump. I love President Trump. I support him, but he very stupidly listened to some people. Bayer and Monsanto lied to him. Oh, he says that signed an executive order that glyphosate, which is Roundup weed killer that's sprayed in all our crops. Oh, he says this is a matter of national security. We must have this. National security includes killing your people by poisoning them to death in all their foods, really? Okay, I'm just telling you, Monsanto is one of the top #1 sources of evil and wickedness in the food system. Bayer also is another one. Big Pharma, Big Pharmakia. Wow. Okay, so if this video gets shadow banned or, mysteriously very unpopular on YouTube or on Spotify, don't forget that Spotify is highly connected financially to Big Pharma. Yes, they are. Okay, so hopefully these will get uploaded onto BitChute. I used to use BitChute. I haven't used it in a long time because their video system is horrible. It's so archaic. But I did reconnect it with my YouTube, so hopefully it'll auto upload, I hope. Because it's just horrible. Anyway, but it's a very, very, very big free speech platform. Pretty much anything and everything is on there. I don't mean anything illegal. I mean all the stuff you can't find anywhere else, it's on BitChute. Okay, but also on Rumble. My stuff is on Rumble also. So those 4 places now you can find all my stuff. By the way, I did a video called High Altitude Science Dreams several years ago when I was learning all this. I had other dreams that God started showing me stuff about weather modification and all that. That's in there. You got to watch that. This will be in a blog post. Beneath that will be my High Altitude Science Dreams video from way back. I have it posted in 2 other blogs, but I'll post it here also in the blog where this video is primarily embedded. So that was okay. So iodine, look, it took all that just to talk about iodine and my food allergy problem in the beginning. Now let's get to something else along the same lines, but different from iodine. Now that was December 24th, 2020. Now we move forward about 2 months, and now we're February 20th, 2021. 2 months later, I'm sitting in something like a church pew, and there's a woman who I knew at the time. She is standing there, and she's standing at an open refrigerator. And I'm going to do my laundry, but she wants me to use her detergent. It's like an off-brand that is not a mainstream brand, but something by a different company. I decide to use it. I decide to go along with it, but I smell it first. I want to smell it first. Now in the dream, I didn't know, why am I smelling this? Okay, this was a few weeks later again. Same people I'm following. I'm learning all this stuff brand new, and they start talking about borax. They start saying borax is used for heavy metal detox. So I first got a dream iodine for fluoride detox for the brain. Now I'm getting metals detox information from a dream that has, okay, borax is go in your grocery store, go to the laundry section, borax is used as a laundry detergent booster. If you make your own laundry detergent from washing soda and all, I haven't been able to do that yet. Believe me, I'm going to, but I haven't been able to yet. Borax is one of the ingredients you use. It's a laundry detergent booster. It has something to do with water softening so that your stuff will dissolve faster. Whatever your homemade solution will dissolve faster with borax. If you put a small amount, now, if you're going to take this, and God was showing me I need it as a supplement, and I pointed out in my previous video, the high altitude science streams, if you're going to take that, you have to use a very tiny amount. For me, it's 1/8 of a teaspoon, 1/8 of a teaspoon, not more than that, because too much borax, too much beyond, it goes by weight. So you got to go look up online, find out how much you need according to your weight, and don't take more than that because it will become toxic if you take too much. But as long as you're not taking more than that little bit, or you can just simply do a pinch of it and put it in water and drink it. Now, here's how I knew it was borax, because I started listening to these people and I went out and bought it. And when I put it in water, that small little amount in water, a whole water bottle, it had a funny smell. It had like a fishy smell to it. That's why, okay, so the dream, laundry detergent, and a smell, and a refrigerator, which meant it was something you consume. What do you put in a refrigerator? Foods, drinks, things you consume internally. So I knew God was telling me using those three symbols that it was something I would consume. And then when I was studying and listening to all these people talk about borax, what it will do for heavy metals detox from your body, that's when I knew that what the dream was telling me. Again, God didn't tell me the answer. He just showed me that I needed to use this. Okay, so then I started becoming aware of borax. I started looking into more and more of heavy metals toxicity and where it was coming from vaccines, from foods, from all kinds of different sources, toxic things. Now, you might want to ask, so what's the purpose? Why are we being metallized? Okay, well, first of all, because I watched a video way back when I first started studying this and saw a college video where they showed a ton of these nanometals on a little microscopic dish or something like that. They show it under a microscope, and when you send certain frequencies at these nanometals, they line up and form an antenna. So when you have tons of nanometals inside of you from vaccines and foods and all kinds of toxic polluted sources, guess what? You make yourself a giant antenna. Well, guess what is transmitted that just so happens to interact with these nanometals? Cell phone towers, 5G, 4G, all the Gs, they all, and I even saw a post, I didn't look this up, but someone said that the military originally did not call them cell phone towers, it called them direct energy towers. That's interesting. So by transmitting signals through a metallized body, you become an antenna, and now you start thinking the way they want you to think. Have you ever heard what the real chip thing is? What the mark of the beast actually is going to be? A computer chip under your skin that takes over your brain, that hijacks your entire thinking. Your brain is no longer your own. It's over. Why do you think in the Bible we're warned that if you take that, it's over? Your salvation is done. You can never gain it back. The reason is simply because I learned that when you put this chip under your skin, it takes over your whole brain. You no longer have control of your thinking anymore. It's over. It takes over your emotions, takes over your brain thinking, takes over everything. And that's how the Antichrist is going to take over, by mind control, but using specifically technology, metals, chips, things that interact with frequencies, because when they send frequencies out, they can control you using frequencies and cell towers, which are everywhere. Okay, so metals detox from all these different sources. Borax is what God showed me. Borax and chemical toxins like fluoride. But by the way, your teeth are not made of fluoride. But you can go to people like Dr. Michelle on those Facebook ads and all this stuff, and I've been using it now. Dr. Michelle's tooth powder, and now we hear people. Okay, let me recommend people to follow. Dr. Josh Axe, he's a Christian. Jordan Rubin, he's been on Sid Roth several times, and Dr. Austin Lake. Those are three people I can tell you right now that you should follow because, again, Dr. Axe being a Christian, just go on and listen to him. Listen to Dr. Axe and all the people he interviews. Go on there and watch all the people he interviews. Listen to them. You'll learn a lot. That's where you should start. I'm not giving you advice. I don't have no medical training. I am not licensed to give you advice. I'm telling you what God showed me. I'm going to emphasize that again. He showed me. And I'm telling you, people, you should go because they are licensed and they can tell you what's true. Follow them on social media. That's where you should go. Listen to them. Dr. Josh Axe, Jordan Rubin, and Dr. Austin Lake. Those are three people of many. There's others, Dr. Eric Berg. There's all these other people, and there's all kinds of other channels. We're going to get to some other stuff I'm learning from because God started opening the door wider and wider for my awareness and my understanding what's really going on. The more I learn, it's just like now I can pick up stuff that doesn't have to be in a dream. I can find stuff and say, you know what? I feel like I need that. I had a problem with my teeth. I used to have severe teeth grinding, which I talked about in the past. I got healed again from Joan Hunter on Sid Roth years ago. From the problem with my teeth grinding was a problem with healing of the heart, in a spiritual matter, emotionally and spiritually. I needed healing of the heart. When I went through the prayer that she gave on Sid Roth, my teeth grinding stopped, but the damage was still there on bottom teeth. If you look up close, I have some damage on the bottom teeth. And now we're getting to that. We're getting to something I was shown, but without a dream, I knew that what I was listening to Dr. Michelle with her tooth powder and the bentonite clay and hydroxyapatite, I began to realize that is what you need for your teeth, not this other crap that we're being lied to all the time. Why is fluoride sold in bottles, big metal canisters that have a big hazmat warning on them? Toxic, danger. And you think, oh no, we should put that in our mouth. We should drink it. You don't even think twice. They don't want you to think. They don't want you to use your brain. They don't want you to actually know what's going on. They don't want you to do any of this stuff. They want you to lie to you and you to turn your brain off. And that's why they want to control you by filling you with metals and broadcasting signals so they can control your mind. Mike Kilo Ultra. I just gave you two letters in phonetic form. Mike Kilo Ultra. Mind control program. It's still being used today. Okay, so anyway, that's what's being going on. Mass media is taken over by Satan. Okay, go back to the dream. I just talked about this a few videos ago. The big Air Force 4-engine jet with the standard gray and the purple stripes, like business stripes. Okay, see this back here? Look at the pattern of the stripes on this jet, business jet. Okay, the stripes, the stripe pattern on my the stripe pattern on the big 4-engine jet looked a lot like that. It looked a lot like that. By the way, why is my computer, when I put my thumbs up in the air, why does it pop up with something? Why is it doing that? Well, let's not talk about AI today, okay? Let's just not talk about that. But we are going to get to lead paint, and that being a blocking of RF signals. I'll just insert that right now because it fits. Blocking all the RF signals they're trying to control you with. Lead paint. Wow. You think it's toxic? How many people went up and licked their wall when they used lead paint on their wall? Do kids lick walls? Do dogs lick walls? I don't remember hearing of people that go up and lick their wall with, if when we used to have paint with lead in it. I don't remember, but the more we have wireless transmissions, the more all of a sudden lead paint became supposedly toxic and evil and banned. Well, lead blocks RF signals. Superman would stand behind a lead wall to, it's a movie, but still the point remains, everyone knew that lead blocks stuff. Lead will block radiation, it will block signals. So how can they control you when you're behind a lead wall in your home all day long or all night? That's interesting. Now we start to connect the dots. Okay, wow, this is interesting. So let's see, I'm telling you, the more you follow your dreams and the more you listen to the stuff God's telling you and you start studying, you start expanding your mind. Expanding your mind. Not like Loki did, but the way God wants you to expand your mind. Okay, so let's move on. I only talked about 2 dreams so far. So here's the third one. This is interesting. This is a whole different thing now. December 15th, 2023. So we go from February 2021 to December 2023, 2 years. And now I'm looking at something like some kind of a cup that you can make coffee in. And there's a little plug-in device that has the word Tesla written on it. But instead of seeing coffee, I see something different. I see a white opened container with no label, and it's got like a white powder mix inside of it. And I get the word Ovaltine. Now, that's going to be kind of funny for some people because Ovaltine is stuff from way in the past. And I thought it was funny too. I'm thinking, what the heck? Is God telling me I'm like he's talking to me like a much older person now, Ovaltine, because that's what you think of. That your first thought would be like that came way in the past, is still being made. I will say it's still being made by a company that is highly suspicious, Nestle, very highly suspicious, because of anyway, people that know this know that, but I'm just going to move on. Any big mainstream brand, you should be very highly suspicious of. Anyway, but it was bought by them, and now Ovaltine is still being made. But I knew that, and I'm like, wow, God wants me to buy this stuff. So I start looking it up, like, why would He want me? What's in there? I started looking up all the reasons it was made for nutritional as a supplement. And so I started realizing God wanted me to get that. I didn't think there was that much in there. I think the original version was probably much better, but still there was some reason why he wanted me to get that. So I said, okay, I'm going to get it. I didn't know why. But I had to look up, it had to do with the malt powder, the malt version of that, because the malt version, if you do a study, it actually uses malt, kind of like what is okay. There's a malt process. We used to have malt beverages, like malts instead of shakes way back in the 50s. I think is when that started. You go back and watch an older movie, and that malt is a common word. Okay, that malting process. I studied all this. There are very specific nutrients that are produced in that. Now, I can't really go back and tell you all that now because I haven't studied that in a while, but I did. I did a lot of studying on that. Um, it does come from grain. Um, the malting process of grain um, produces nutrients in there. And even, okay, leading up to Ovaltine, malt, the malt powder, brewer's yeast, nutritional brewer's yeast also has a lot of nutrients, a lot of them, actually has more. And I was trying to debate on whether I should get brewer's yeast or Ovaltine, but because God said Ovaltine in the dream, that word, I started with that. And at the time in Colorado, I had like no money. So, I mean, Ovaltine was like less than $5 at Walmart. So I started with that. And then as I did that, he started showing me more stuff and more dreams. We'll get to that. So the word Tesla, I was like, okay, why is the word Tesla on there? The only thing I could still come up with there is because it has to do with a Tesla device has to do with electric energy, which could be translated in this case into nutrients you need for your own human body's energy, your energy level in your body. So I started thinking, okay, there's something going on with that. Now, and the little device cup thing could be a Keurig machine. At the time in Colorado, I was drinking coffee with a Keurig type thing. And I was putting an Ovaltine in there. I was mixing it in there. That was really the only thing I had access to that I could mix that stuff together with. And it was not a house; it was someone else's house I was living in at the time, and so that's what they had, and that's what I had access to. Now, following up from that, so we go from December 15th, 2023. Now we go to January 28th, 2024, a month and a half later. Now, I have a dream about something with cocoa powder. And in the dream, some of it spilled. I had cocoa powder in my childhood house where I grew up on the kitchen counter. I spilled some of it and I was scooping it up and putting it into the Ovaltine container. So now there, God is showing two things together. He's showing there's something with cocoa powder and Ovaltine. Now there's a chocolate version, malt version of Ovaltine. That's the one I got because it said malt on it, and I knew that was what I need to focus on. But now God's showing some connection between the cocoa powder and the Ovaltine. So I knew that there was something I needed to add cocoa powder along with because there was a nutrient deficiency I had and I needed that. Okay, so now we go from January 28th, 2024 to May 5th, 2024. Now I see these tiny little human skeleton figures and the bones are multicolored, dark striped. What I'm doing is they're little skeleton figures. I'm breaking off pieces of the skeleton figures and I'm putting them in the coffee that I was drinking, and I was stirring it. And then there was something about some guy gave me coffee with a lot of foamy creamer, and I was wondering where it came from. And I ended up knocking it over and spilled a little, but most of it was still in the cup. Now, the thing about knocking it over, that actually did happen. I did actually have an Ovaltine container. I by accident I knocked it over and hardly any of it spilled out. But I scooped up some and then that was when I put the cocoa powder in there because I realized the connection of all these dreams. Um, and so when I started looking up the nutrients in cocoa powder, I began to realize that because of this dream about tiny human skeleton figures that I was breaking off the little bones and putting them in the coffee mix, I began to realize God was telling me the reason I needed this was because of bone strength, my own bone strength. I need that for bone health. So God was showing me why I needed the Ovaltine and also the cocoa powder because of the nutrients in there. So I looked it up and I wanted to find out, does cocoa powder and Ovaltine, the nutrients in there, connect with what's in our bones? And I found out the answer is yes. Yes, so God was showing me I need that for bone health. Okay, now if you go back to the brewer's yeast, you'll find there's actually more nutrients in there. Um, and so they also it's all those are all connected with the thing here, what I'm trying to say. But God was showing me why I needed this. But look at that, it took a year and a half from the first dream I had about this to the last one, why I needed that. Now there was one more after that that follows up to all that. Now we go from May 5th, 2024. Now we go to October 1st, 2024. And now I'm drinking what I thought was coffee, but I look at the paper filter in the coffee machine. It's not coffee, it's cacao powder. And that's around the time I was seeing uh, social media ads for this company called CryoBrew. And CryoBrew is a coffee substitute they use for making brewed cacao. So they use cacao beans like you might use coffee beans, and they make a coffee substitute out of it. And I started reading about that, about the nutrients in cacao powder, and I started realizing God was telling me that I needed to do that instead of coffee. So replace coffee with cacao. Now, since then, I have not been able to buy that stuff. Remember, I'm living on almost nothing. And so whatever money I have to prioritize it with everything else that I need. So I have not yet been able to buy this from CryoBrew, the company. It's on Amazon, the Underoat website, but as soon as I can, that's on my list, believe me. But what I did instead was I've been using the cocoa powder. So I'm getting cacao and cocoa are different because of the processing. You take the cacao bean and you process it to become cocoa powder. There's a slight difference in the minerals and the nutrients between and the vitamins between them. There is a slight difference, but God was now showing me cacao powder. I need that also. So, and to replace coffee with cacao. Now, I have a problem if I drink too much coffee. It just doesn't work well for me. It causes problems. But it took me a long time to realize that that I needed to back off from that. And we're going to get to more of that. My Jesus showed my wife something about coffee. You're not going to like what he showed her at all. You're not going to like it at all. But he showed me something, and if you listen to what I'm saying and you take some of this, uh, if you consider doing some of this also, you'll see the effects. I think you're going to start to realize there's something bigger going on here. Okay, now before we get to that, we got to jump to something else. The last dream I had was just recently, December 27th, 2025. Now I'm looking at what would have been a toilet paper roll on top of a toilet at the place where I'm staying. Instead, I didn't see a toilet paper roll there. I saw an empty plastic spool. Now, let me just check something here really quick, make sure my streaming is going. Yes. Okay, I'm seeing an empty plastic spool, and it's about, let me just see, it's about like that big. And okay, a spool of thread, like for a sewing machine, there's the outer part, and then there's the spool of the thread on the inside. So this was a spool, but it was not a thread spool. It was something bigger, and it was plastic, and it had like circular rings in the pattern on the outer edges of the spool, and it was about like this big, and it was just a little bigger. Okay, it was slight. You know what? It was about the same size as a toilet paper roll, a full toilet paper roll. That's about how big it was, but it was empty. There was nothing on the spool. It was empty. So several weeks go by, and I'm asking God, "What is this? What I'm thinking like, are we going to have an electrical outage, and we need to have someone bring a line over to where I'm staying to like what is this? I'm thinking. Well, I started thinking a spool because what do you put on a spool? Well, you could put thread on a spool, but I knew this wasn't thread. I started thinking, okay, well, maybe it's got something to do with electricity, an electrical cable, and that was my first thought. So I'm thinking a spool of electrical cable. Why would I be lacking electrical cable? And because the dream showed the spool was empty. And then so I started thinking, okay, now we're on the thought of electrical cable. So what is electrical cable made of? Copper. Okay, so I'm start thinking now. I didn't know what to do with that. Several weeks went by. Again, that's the pattern. Several weeks go by, and now I'm seeing all these posts on social media, like say for instance on Instagram, other places too, but Instagram, and they're talking about copper and how copper is, guess what, being eliminated from all parts of our life because copper has an effect on water. It has an electrical effect on the human body, whether copper bracelets or other kind of copper jewelry, um, or um, or it has an effect on water to purify the water in certain ways and to put copper ions into the water, which a body needs. It's a health supplement again in some way. So I started looking and realizing, okay, I need a 100% pure, or I think the most you can get is like 99.8% pure or whatever. There's a lot of them out there. There's different companies. I found some. When I get the money, I'll buy it. But that is high on my list that I need. God is showing me I need. Okay, he's showing me I have a lack of copper. The spool had nothing on it. He's showing me I lack copper in my life. And it has to do with detox because it was sitting on top of a toilet. So somehow copper lacking in my life, the lack of copper in different ways is causing a toxicity problem. So now I need, and I know the thing I'm going to start with is pure copper water bottles because it changes the properties of the water in a good way. And because I've just been going through this whole thing about a water filter, trying to find a good water filter, I finally found one that's an acceptable solution for now, but it's not my long-term solution. The thing I'm using now is Zero Water. I liked it pure. I liked it Brita. I knew Brita hardly filters anything. Brita is not really useful as a filter at all. It'll change the taste of your water, but it's not going to filter much of anything out. So I don't recommend that at all. Pure, I thought Pure was good, Pur. I thought that was good, but I found out that doesn't filter really all that much either. The next best solution from there, and I had to watch the money because they're not working with much at all. So I went to Zero Water, and that was for the cost and what I needed it for. That was the acceptable solution. I did try the Go Pure pods, those little pods that use, what do you call it, Diometrius? I don't even know how you pronounce this stuff. The Earth, Go Pure. I tried that last year, and I didn't get a feeling one way or the other what it was doing and how accurate it was. My wife did say something that kind of annoyed me at the time. I just got the filter and she said something about she was seeing parasites. I kind of got mad because I just took all this time. I decided on this. I have to have something. I'm tired of being poisoned to death with the water. And I had to start with something. So I started with that and she said that. And I was like, you know what? I'm just shutting this off. I'm going with what I felt like I had to use. So I don't know anything. I don't know one way or the other about GoPure. I used it for 6 months and it only lasts for 6 months. I would love to use. They do have a new version of it now. I'll say they have a new version. It seems like everything's very reputable. Um, but I just don't know. So, but I will say that's something I tried. I didn't have any way to measure the outcome of it. I will say that when they dump chlorine in the water in this ridiculous place, the public water, when I filtered it with that pod, I still smelled chlorine. And I even wrote to them, I said, you guys say you filter chlorine. Why am I still smelling it? And they did tell me something useful. They said, okay, this is very useful. They told me, they said, do not drink water out of your faucet in the morning from a public supply because they dump chlorine overnight. They dump chlorine in the system overnight. So let your water run for several minutes in the morning before you drink any of it. And I did notice that um, I've smelled that stuff here quite a bit. And with the zero, the zero water filter, I have noticed there's a definite change in the quality of the water. It's much better. They do filter chlorine out of there. Zero water filters are bigger than Pure and Brita. They don't last as long because they filter a lot more. And so you have to buy them more often. They're more expensive, which doesn't help me out right now at all. But that's what I'm using, zero water for now, until I can get something much better. And definitely the fluoride filtering is kind of hard to come by unless you pay like $300 for a system, which I can't use. There's no way I can do anything with that right now. Can't even buy that. So anyway, I'm just telling you what I can. I'm telling you what I've been researching and what I've been finding out. But if I were to use the zero water filter with and put that in a copper water bottle, a pure copper water bottle, and drink it out of there, that would have a much greater effect on health. Those two things together. The copper bottle it does. What I remember is, you have to look this up, but what I remember is it's good for killing bacteria and stuff like that. It does not take chemicals or metals out of the water. It's good for some things. It's good for, like I say, the copper ions that go into the water that give the water an electrical charge of some kind, which your body needs. And if you go back and study the history of copper and mysteriously find out it's not being recommended by doctors anymore, yeah, because that is a very cheap health solution, that it does energize the body in ways that can increase your healing rate much faster. Of course, you can't make billions of dollars on that. So anything that actually works that's real, those big companies are going to kill it and shut it down and make you think by their mind control propaganda lies. They try to make you think that it's some hoax from the past. Oh, those people back then, they didn't know anything. Here, let's kill you. Let's keep killing you, and come and take our toxic pharmaceuticals that cure nothing at all and just kill you, and give you more side effects and make you worse off than you ever were, and keep you stuck in a healthcare insurance scam is what it is. So they can make money make money off of you every which way, which began with John Rockefeller. John Rockefeller is the guy who started all this, to make money off every possible way he can by killing you with one thing and pretending to treat you with the other thing and making money off both ways of it. And then the third way, with this ridiculous healthcare scam. Why do you think these evil, demonic politicians keep pushing this healthcare thing? Because it's a scam. They're making billions of dollars off of it. Why do you think they keep pushing it? Why do you think they keep mind controlling you, thinking you need to have it when you don't? You know why I've been living without health insurance ever since I left the Air Force? Because God wouldn't let me have a job. He wouldn't let me have any income, wouldn't let me have a way to pay it. And guess what? I never needed it. Hello. That's been since 2015. Never needed it. Wow, isn't that interesting? Instead, God shows me health solutions in dreams, things I do need instead, that don't cost hardly anything in comparison to that garbage. That's interesting. So God will show you what not to do. He'll show you what to do instead if you just ask him, and keep asking until he shows you. Now, let's back up to something. 2025 to 2026, and this is February 20th, 2026. My wife has had many dreams, visions. She's had many visions that if I do not, I said this in the beginning, if I do not stop consuming dairy foods, I would die of cancer. Do a little research. What's in dairy? What do they feed all these cows with? And even the ones they claim are grass-fed. Yeah, but the grass-fed, yeah, along with all the other garbage they feed them, false advertising, lies, and we just believe them. Okay. Well, anyway, God showed Janika that if I did not stop all dairy foods, which includes milk, cheese, and ice cream, and other things also, that I was going to die of cancer. Well, you figure it out. Oh, I do have a family member who got prostate cancer, and Jesus showed my wife the reason he got that is because of drinking milk. Jesus showed my wife a full gallon of vitamin D whole milk. And she saw that thing, and then she saw the family members, the car after they did grocery shopping, and what was in there. A whole gallon of this whole milk was in there. She knew that that was the cause of the cancer. So I don't know whether the family member has continued to take the advice to stop drinking that or not. Initially, yes, but I don't know that that was continued. I'm not so sure it was continued, unfortunately. Person's health has gotten worse. Um, and there are other reasons for that. You don't open your mouth and attack a man with a healing ministry and think that God is going to heal you of cancer when you are attacking a valid preacher with the healing ministry. Need I say that again? Okay, let's keep moving. So now here's the thing you're not going to like. You're not going to like this at all. Jesus showed my wife, Janika, that told her that coffee makes you age faster. I didn't like that either. But if you read about coffee, a lot of the doctors that are reliable will tell you that the harvesting and growing practices of coffee is horrible. It's like everything else. They ram it through to try to make as much of it as they can using the wrong methods, and it's loaded with mold. Now, I don't know if that was the reason why it makes you age faster, but I will say there's a lot of toxicity in coffee, all the mainstream brands. You got to go find organic stuff and all that. I couldn't get a really good answer to why it would make you age faster other than the fact that it has toxins in it because of the lousy farming practices for coffee beans. I will say that when I looked it up, it said something about the caffeine. I will tell you that caffeine, too much of it does not go well with me at all. It doesn't work out well. um, not good. So uh, I like it, but remember, God showed me what to drink instead of that. When I get the money, I'm going to. So I drink coffee very rarely. I drink it, but just rarely. I kind of keep my distance from it most of the time, and definitely increasingly, I didn't like what she said about dairy either. When Jesus told her the thing about dairy, I didn't like that either. So that was an adjustment. I kind of got mad about that, but then I slowly been adjusting, and the more I study and the more I learn about what's really going on, the more my mind has changed, and now I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to touch that stuff. I don't. It's little as possible. You know, there's some things that if you just eat it every now and then, okay, but if you make a habit of it, it's not going to go well. Um, so, all right, so let's just take a look here. 52 and a half minutes on this live stream. Okay, these are the dreams that God showed me about health solutions. I know for a fact they are not the end of that. God's going to keep showing me stuff. So like every now and then, I get hundreds of dreams every year, hundreds and hundreds of dreams every year. And these are relatively few in comparison to all the other dreams. But because I get dreams on all kinds of topics, tons of them. But these are things I've taken, I made notes. I have my dreams all in a journal. And I just felt like at one point this would be a great video to walk through all the dreams I had. And I had to kind of go through all my notes and documents, journal documents to put these all together and walk through them so you could see what he's been showing me. And I don't think I missed anything here. I think I got everything. But just to make sure, I'm checking out also the blog post where I wrote all these. I think I don't know if I'm going to include the dreams in the blog that I post this video in. We'll see if that's a good idea or not. Just because I try not to keep. There's kind of a judgment call. Do I want to put everything in there that I don't explain because I don't want to do a full blog write up on this. And if I do that, then I may have to explain things and edit this so it makes sense. If I just copy and paste right from my notes, it may not make sense. And sometimes I rather just focus on the video, what I'm saying. And I'm not always in a writing mood is what I'm trying to say. So I'm just debating on how much of this. I think I'll just put an edited version, shortened version of the dreams and let you just watch the video and say, for the rest, just watch the video. I have much better explanation of the dreams in the video than I do in writing here. But the resources link in the bottom of all my blogs, check those because anything related, and this is just this is automatic. I don't plug these in myself like I used to. So anything related, you might find something in there. You might find, like right now, I see the High Altitude Science Streams blog post is in there at the bottom. If it stays that way, if it doesn't change it may change that. But anyway, I'll have it linked in here, the video will be linked in this blog post. So you'll still have it one way or the other. Okay. So I think that's pretty much it. I think we're going to call it a day with that. And something, like I say, very practical. God Showing Health Solutions, which led to a much greater understanding of what's really going on. And the more you become aware of what's going on, the more you accelerate your learning and you find everything else. And now you start to realize all these people saying strange stuff about the effects of gold, silver, and copper on the body, and all this stuff about transmitting things through the air to mind control you. You start to realize after a while this stuff is real. You really need to learn the good and the bad, um, and not pass it off. Like, because they want you to just dismiss the whole thing. They out there want you to believe their lies so they can continue to control you more and more. It's the Antichrist system being put in place, one block at a time. That's what it is. It's the Antichrist system being put in place. Um, and the more technology we have, the faster it's accelerating. Very bad. AI is part of that, unfortunately. I started off with a positive mindset about that, and you can use it in the right way. But the problem is there's so much evil being going on out there, and all this intrusiveness with spying, and you can see people through walls with 5G routers, 5G Wi-Fi routers in your house. Those signals can see people. They can track you all throughout your house. Well, if you got lead paint on your walls, they can't see you. Where are you going to find lead paint? I don't know, but it's a good thing to look into. That plus other things. This starts to make you think twice about all this stuff. You really want to run out and get the latest phone. After the dream I had a couple of years ago, about I talked about it's in my blog, a robot head sitting next to someone I was talking to in a couch in someone's living room, and that head was talking, and it knew something so detailed about my past career in the Air Force. One tiny, minute little detail. First of all, it was classified. Secondly, it's not something the average person would even know anything about or care. I don't think about it very often. I don't even think anything of it most of the time, actually. But this AI robot head sitting on a couch in the living room where I was talking to someone, it knew every single thing about me down to the most minute detail. Well, where do you think it got it from? This listening, always listening to you, always listening. Everything you say, listening, recording, transmitting, collecting in a big database right here. So, what's my solution to this? I don't know yet, but believe me, I've been looking at it. I've been looking into it. Um, I will say that if you really want to find out what's really going on with that stuff, you should listen to a guy named Rob Braxman. Braxman, Asian guy on YouTube. You should listen to him. There's another guy in the UK that had did an interview with him who talks about all kinds of stuff. You should listen to him. I don't know his name. Should I look it up on YouTube? I can look. If you take their advice 100%, you're probably going to go crazy because you're going to start to get to the point where you feel like you can't do anything anymore. And it's kind of just takes over. So there is a limit somewhere. There is a David Bombal, Bombal, David Bombal in the UK. He's another one of these guys that is very good with all this kind of uh, intrusiveness, spying, digital stuff, very technical, very tech kind of guy. These two guys. There's others out there too. It's just not those. There's others. I don't. There's a limit somewhere. There's a line somewhere of moderation. I can't tell you always where that moderation line is. I cannot always tell you, what should you do about phones? What should you do about any kind of like the latest? I will say, if you got any kind of AI on your anything, shut it off. That's what I did on Apple. I shut it off. I don't want this stuff. That thing was very clear. The robot head was AI. That's what it was. It was AI. And how did it know something that, first of all, was classified, that is not publicly anywhere in my history and my career? How did it know that? That shouldn't be possible to be known. And it was very minor. Like, who would even care about that? Well, it knew it. How did it know that? That's a great question. If it can know that, the point is, if it can know that, something that is hidden behind classification, if it found out that and it connected it with me and it knew I did that, it knows every other thing about my entire life. I'm saying that's a word for you. It's doing that to you. And if you don't even know what's going on with this, you don't even know that this even is real. You're all over their databases. Everything about you is all over there. So my point is, where's the limit? Where is the moderation point on here? How far should you go with this? How far should you take these warnings? I'm still working through that. I don't know. If God shows you something or you feel like you want to do something, if you start going crazy with everything, and you want to live in a cave somewhere, you're probably going too far. We are supposed to have dominion and authority in the kingdom of God to override a lot of stuff, but still you have to use wisdom. You still have to use wisdom. Jesus didn't counteract all the threats against him with marvelous supernatural abilities. He did not always disappear from one city and appear in another. He didn't always instantly cross a lake several miles from the middle to the edge instantly. Uh, he didn't always do that. He didn't always use his supernatural abilities to escape. He sometimes had to run. Jesus sometimes had to run. You know, he didn't always walk through the midst of a crowd as if he was transparent and walking through them. Didn't always do that. We have to use wisdom. If you think that, now I used to think this, I used to think that, oh, I have all these marvel abilities, so I should be able to override everything. Well, not all those abilities have manifested yet, but still the pattern is that Jesus himself didn't even use those all the time. Um, you know, so there is a wisdom of application there somewhere, which I'm still walking through that process. I don't have a quick, easy answer for everything. I don't have a quick 50-cent black and white answer for everything. Oh, we'll just do this. No, it's not always that simple. God requires to use our brain to think, to process things, to think strategically. And if he warns us about something, we have to take the warning and ask him, what do I do about it? So, like I say, I'm still processing through some of these things right now myself. I don't have all the answers, but I'm doing this to tell you this is your awareness of what all the kind of things God's been showing me. It's a starting point. You can take all this and do your research and go from there and use this as a stepping stone. Um, so I will back up here. One thing I do want to say, because I just thought of it now, and I've been talking about this for several years. I haven't talked about it in videos, but I still didn't get a solution yet. I will say that when I was taking Designer Whey protein powder, and I'm not going to say just Designer Whey, the company Designer that makes whey protein powder, I'm not going to limit it to them, but I'm going to limit it to, I'm going to expand it to all whey protein powder supplements. You might want to watch it with that because you can't really see, but um, yeah, you really can't see it at all. It's kind of hard. There's this lipoma cyst bump under my skin. That's in other places also. And I started seeing those things pop up when I started using everyday Designer whey protein powder, the stuff you put in mixes, in smoothies. I used to think that was the greatest thing because I thought, well, whey protein powder has a much higher protein density than eating meat. I thought, well, this is great. This is perfect. Yeah, but I took it every single day for years. And when I did, these things under my skin in all different places started popping up. That those are there because of dairy. Now, I kind of knew that already, but I thought it was interesting that Jesus confirmed to her that those are there under my skin because of dairy. So I asked, okay, well, what's the solution? Honestly, we're not there yet. Unfortunately, I still don't have a solution for that yet. I've heard people talk about apple cider vinegar. I've been taking that stuff for years. I haven't seen it change anything. But I will say is the starting point is stop polluting your body. If you have a problem, the first step is stop polluting your body. Stop doing the thing that caused the problem to begin with. I stopped whey protein a long time ago. When I realized that was it, I went off that a long time ago and I went to Garden of Life, which was a company Jordan Rubin started. Um, he started until he sold it. He sold it to a company that then sold it to Nestle. He didn't sell it to Nestle. The company he sold it to Nestle. He'll tell you that. It's right in his social media post on Instagram. I saw it. So Nestle, highly questionable, big mainstream brand. Don't trust any of them. But I was taking Garden of Life raw meal, vegan protein, and all kinds of other stuff in there, which I haven't looked into it. I don't know if it's still reliable or not, but I was taking that for a long time. And that's what I got instead of whey protein powder. So I went off that stuff years ago, but I still don't have a solution. These things are still there. So I'm waiting for God to do something to get rid of them. So when that happens, believe me, I will come on here and tell you what that was. I just don't have a solution yet. And the stuff I've tried hasn't worked. So anyway, but I stopped taking that stuff. Oh, I also noticed that after that, when I used to not be able to eat cheese because I had so many food allergies. When I started eating cheese again, that's when this one popped up right here. And a couple others popped up after I started eating a lot of cheese that I before couldn't eat. So cheese and whey protein powder caused all those little lipoma cysts, those little things, all underneath my skin in different places. So anyway, in case you didn't know what is causing that, there's a good chance that if you have that, it is caused by dairy. You need to stop it immediately. Get off of that stuff. No dairy. I will say that I've looked into raw dairy, raw A2 dairy, and I felt like when I watched interviews with Dr. Axe about that, I felt like that was a very good idea. My wife has not agreed with that yet. She did not say that God told her that is okay yet. In fact, he showed her something that I think the point is it comes down to you have to know the farm you get it from. Do they have good sanitation standards? If they have good sanitation, you're probably okay. Um, but raw dairy on regenerative farms that do not pollute their cows with toxic crap, um, raw dairy has nutrients that pasteurizing kills. Again, oh, we have to pasteurize really because of a tiny little problem that existed, a very limited, tiny little problem that came from milk that wasn't pasteurized decades ago. Oh, now you have to apply your solution to everything. Well, pasteurizing kills most of the nutrients in milk. So you're drinking dead milk. If you're drinking something other than A2, there's a good chance the A1, your body can't process that. So it may not be a lactose problem, it may be an A1 problem, but most milks don't tell you which kind. So I can't tell you, it just you should really just get off of dairy. Just knock it off completely. Stop. If you have a raw farm, a raw dairy farm near you, and you have to go directly to them, if you can get that, I'm planning to, but I have to get the okay that which farm, which location. I right now I'm unfortunately I'm not able. I found out goat's milk may have way more nutrients and less problem uh, for humans than cow's milk. Goat's milk might be a lot better. Might be. So I'm just summarizing a lot of stuff I've been learning in all my studying because of all of the stuff God's been showing me in dreams. And again, I took those as stepping stones, and I've been learning more and more and more and more. And it's just the more you learn, it starts to change your whole life. Um, so you could stop having all these diseases if you first go to the root of the problem, which is the crap that we're being fed by the lies our government has mind controlled us with. And again, now we're still being mind controlled with lies. And even Trump bought in on the crap, the lies that these companies I told you at the beginning, now he's buying it and making an executive order, total lie. That is very disappointing. So, and there's other things that they haven't quite got the clue about yet because they do not have the right connection to the right ministry. There's only one they need to be connected with. And if they're not going to, as long as they're not going to, they're going to continue to make stupid decisions because they don't have the right people telling them what to do and they're listening to the wrong ones. So, word to the wise. Okay. 1 hour and 9 minutes. That's a good stopping point. 9 can be the number of finality. So we're going to stop there. I think I've talked about everything I need to. And, but this was something I'd been wanting to do for a long time. So anyway, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for donating. Thanks for supporting. As you know, I would get a whole lot more stuff if I could, but I can't right now. So until that day comes soon, I'm expecting everything soon to happen. But until it does, here's where we are. So thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. And I'll talk to you again soon. God bless.